Welcome and thank you for joining Worley's Investor Day 2026. And a special welcome to those who are joining us online. I'm Kylie Ramsden, Group Director of Investor Relations. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians on the land on which we meet today. We recognise their strength and resilience, and we pay respect to their elders past and present, and to all First Nations people who may be joining us today. We remind you to review our disclaimer, which is on the screen behind me. Today we've got a very full agenda. You'll hear from Chris, our CEO, Chris Ashton, on our FY30 ambition, as well as the business update, including a live cross to one of our senior leaders responsible for our Middle East operations. You'll hear from Andy Hemingway, who'll provide more detail on our strategy for growth, and then from Laura Leonard on how we're leveraging digital and AI to support our growth ambition. I'll return to host a panel discussion with Mark Brantley and Mark Truman, as well as some of our business leaders who will talk to how we're executing our strategy. Finally, Justine Travers will discuss the financial discipline that makes all this possible. So partway through the presentation, we'll give you the opportunity to take a short break of 15 minutes. At that time, I invite those who are in the room to join us for some morning tea, meet our leadership team, and visit the display booths that we've set up in the foyer. At the end of the presentation, there'll be Q&A, followed by an opportunity for those present to meet our leadership team over a light lunch. But before our CEO, Chris Ashton, speaks, we'd like to share with you our most recent corporate video, which shows why we're so proud to work for Worley.
Welcome to Worley. We've been partnering with our customers in energy, chemicals and resources for over 5 decades on projects that make a difference, supporting customers through economic shifts, policy changes and technological advancements. More than 50 years ago, Worley began as a small engineering consultancy in Australia. Today, we bring our engineering and project delivery expertise to customers in a world in transition, a globally connected team of more than 40,000 people in over 40 countries, helping customers deliver energy that is secure, affordable, and increasingly low carbon, delivering some of the world's most important projects: LNG in Alaska, lithium in Argentina, phosphates in Saudi Arabia, power solutions in the US, offshore operations in the North Sea, carbon capture in the UK, and ports and water projects supporting communities from Australia to Morocco. We're now bringing our capabilities to broader critical infrastructure projects that matter to the world, with best-in-class expertise at our fingertips, from our consulting practice to our global integrated delivery hubs. We deliver across the full project lifecycle, from concept through execution to operation, enabled by AI and digital capability embedded across how we plan, manage and deliver projects, improving predictability and accelerating outcomes. Backed by trusted relationships with our customers and with each other, this is Worley, delivering the projects that matter to the world.
Thank you. Chris, I'd like to welcome you to the stage now.
Thanks, Kylie. Look, welcome everyone. Great to see so many familiar faces in the room, and for those joining us online, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join. Today, we're going to talk about Worley's next phase of growth, the opportunities we see ahead and the actions we're taking to realise the opportunities and drive growth as we work towards our FY30 ambition. I'll start by setting out the current market context, what we see in the near term, the longer term tailwinds across the markets where our customers are investing, and what that means to us. You'll then hear in more detail from the team around our strategy, how we're executing that, and that which enables us to support the delivery, including AI and digital, and the decisions around capital allocation in support of our strategy. You've heard me say at every Worley webcast or meeting in person, our highest priority is to keep our people safe. With a global footprint, we operate in some challenging and occasionally unstable environments. The current situation in the Middle East has highlighted the strength of our R3 process as we respond with care and agility to look after our people and their families, as well as support our customers. And I'm pleased to report that our workforce of over 4,000 people plus 3,000 family members in the region are safe. There's been no reported injuries and no safety incidents. And this is a great relief to me, the board and the leadership team around the organisation. We have active location monitoring and a clear escalation protocols in place that allow our internal support mechanisms to kick in and support our people as they work through the challenges that they were presented with and faced into in the region. And the efforts coordinated through our R3 team and our R3 framework, ready, response and recovery. We're ready for an event, we have response protocols to events, and we're able to recover from these things. And we have a centralised, cross-functional protocols in place to provide the necessary oversight. We'll work closely with our customers to ensure that we give them the continuity that they're looking for across the project and where it's needed. And we're assisting with their contingency planning to help them respond to the changing conditions. I want to take time to recognise the leaders in the Middle East and the R3 team for everything they've done through the conflict, working together tirelessly in the early phase of the conflict all the way through to today to provide the necessary oversight and support to keep our people safe and feeling looked after. To share firsthand what's happening in the Middle East, we're going to cross over to Hisham Kabaj, who's doing a fantastic job leading the Middle East at the moment. And Hisham is going to dial in now. Here he is. Hisham, you're now live. I'm going to ask you to take this over and share with the audience, both in the room and online, what it's been like over the recent weeks, months, and what it's like now as you lead the team through the conflict.
Thank you, Chris, and hi everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Unfortunately, I could not attend the event in person due to the situation in the Middle East. As you all know, the situation is still quite fragile as we speak, and we need to stay close and alert. Look, the crisis has tested us in ways we don't often face, and I'm really proud of the way we all came together as one team, and how Worley showed the care and puts our people first. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the R3 team, people team and communication team, which have been playing tremendous roles since the crisis started. From the start, our priorities were clear. Protect our people and their families, as Chris said. We have 4,200 people in addition to an important number of dependents across 6 countries: Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar and UAE. Then keep the business operating and support our customers and partners. So today we're 100% back in all offices and sites. Employees who are working abroad are returning, and we continue to monitor the situation closely. When it comes to our customers, partners, Worley is highly trusted. When the first damages started in KSA, the customer right away picked up the phone and called our teams for restoration recovery work. The next day we were in the ground in a couple of sites where we conducted engineering, procurement and construction support. And while the site is already online, I met the restoration team during my recent visit to KSA. They are very proud of the work they have achieved. I also met the customer Aramco, who is very complimentary and issued to Worley a certificate to recognize the work. Very proud how Worley and the team stood up and delivered such a complex situation. In general, the outlook in the Middle East is very strong. Today, the Middle East business is an important part of Worley global revenue, and we were trending to do better this year, but the delay in new projects being awarded had a big impact due to the crisis. With that said, we are today involved in business continuity related scope and strategic projects, particularly with both Aramco and ADNOC, where some initial study contracts have been already awarded to us, and we are in the heart of some major important studies which will have a strong pull with the strong investments that we will be discussing with the customer. These investments focus on energy security, pipeline, upstream, downstream and critical infrastructure. In conclusion, Worley is highly trusted in the Middle East, especially with our global reach, and we are well positioned today to benefit from the major investments in the region. Again, thank you again for the opportunity to speak here today, and Chris, to see you.
Thanks, Hisham. Look, great to hear firsthand what's going on and how we managed through that. Look, while there are some short-term impacts that the conflict creates, it also creates the need for restoration of assets that have been damaged, reconfiguration of import and export infrastructure, and the importance of resilience when it comes to the nation state. Energy, chemical and resource security has never been more important. For our customers, that means restoring the impacted assets, adapting facilities where needed, and embedding greater flexibility and reliability for the future. This is an area where Worley is well placed to support, drawing on the experience and capabilities we already have to deploy engineering and project delivery as well as asset support to our customers. Although the near-term conditions have clearly affected the pace and volume of work, including delayed schedules and project awards, as Hisham has said, we're already engaged in discussions and initial work with customers on rebuild, recovery and resilient investments that are going to follow, are ongoing now. So let me move away from the Middle East and give you an update on the business. Today we reiterate the outlook that we provide an update on to the market on April 20th. With the extended duration of the conflict in the Middle East delaying project timelines and the award of new work, it is now unlikely Worley will achieve growth in underlying EBITDA in FY26. That said, we continue to expect the underlying EBITDA margin, excluding procurement, to be within the range of 9 to 9.5%, and we continue to target higher growth in aggregated revenue than that in FY25. If our expectations change ahead of the full year results as a result of what's going on, then we will update the market. We will update you. Importantly, at the end of March, our opportunity pipeline was up 2%, and our backlog has increased to $16.9 billion, noting that no projects have been cancelled as a result of the conflict in the Middle East. That backlog of $16.9 billion excludes ExxonMobil's Baytown low-carbon hydrogen project. Given the project is on pause and the timing remains uncertain, we've removed it from the project from backlog. We continue, however, to have conversation with ExxonMobil about their plans for this project. I'd also like to draw your attention to some of the strategic wins that will come on the screen. This includes Phase 2 of Venture Global CP2. This is a great picture, a great visual of the size of the project. And if any of you listened to Venture Global's update, their capital markets update a couple of nights ago, you'll hear them talk positively about the project, that it will be the fastest project to produce LNG in the history of LNG projects. There is no project that will reach first gas at a schedule that this project will deliver. Justine will discuss our restructuring efforts and cost management progress a little bit later this morning. Today we also announced that I'm making a change to the leadership team to help us drive the strategy that you'll hear about later today. And that is from July the 1st, Andy Hemingway will take on the role of Major Projects and Programs, and Mark Trum will take on a new role as Group President role as Chief Commercial and Development Officer to help work with me and the Group Executive to drive the implementation of our strategy going forward. We're well positioned to be at the centre of the long duration capital cycle, and our growth strategy leverages the megatrend tailwinds. We have a capital light business model with global scale and strong customer relationships built and sustained over decades. And Worley has a track record of growth, taking a disciplined approach to execution and applying expertise to growth markets. And importantly, a question I get asked often is, we've been very selective and we will continue to be selective on the risk profile we take. We will not ever pursue competitively bid, lump sum, turnkey EPC work. We believe the combination, together with a highly diversified business, supports resilient earnings throughout the capital cycles. And as you can see in this slide in our results, over the past 4 years, our business model and disciplined execution have delivered consistent growth across revenue, underlying EBITDA and EPS. and we're proud of that which has been achieved. Before we talk about what's driving our next phase of growth, it's worth stepping back for a moment to talk about Worley's history, because our foundations are a platform from which we will drive our future strategic execution. I've been with the business for almost 28 years, and I've seen it evolve through multiple stages and distinct chapters. Each evolution we've made is full of deliberate choices to broaden capability, deepen customer relationships, and scale that which we do well. On this slide, we start with a strong base as Worley Parsons. In 2019, the acquisition of Jacobs ECR materially expanded our scale and scope, further building on our engineering, EPC and EPCM capability, and we rebranded as Worley. In 2020, we sharpened our focus again with the purpose of delivering a more sustainable world, building our role in sustainability-related solutions. And now we're building on those foundations to further extend our role, this time as a delivery partner of choice to support our customers as they deliver their capital programs. Today, we unpack our strategy for the next phase of our growth. I want to share 3 key growth drivers. First, we're positioned where capital is flowing, driven by the mega trends across energy, chemicals and resources, and we're positioned well to respond to the market disruption we're experiencing in the Middle East. Second, we're scaling full project delivery using AI-enabled workflows to do more across the life cycle, capture more value and execution, and do it more efficiently. And third, we're selectively expanding into future growth markets, building from a strong base into adjacencies where our capabilities transfer well and we can scale. We've talked before about the need to balance sustainability, security and affordability. And in the current environment, security of supply and affordability have become ever more important drivers of customer investment across energy, chemicals and resource. And the same is true for infrastructure needed to support more resilient systems. Worley plays a critical role in helping customers navigate complexity and build systems that balance security, affordability and sustainability. Recent geopolitical disruption reinforced the importance of these megatrends. In the near term, we expect customer spend to prioritize reliability and security of supply, keeping systems running, adding flexibility and reducing exposure to disruption. Beyond this, we expect follow-on investment across chemicals, resources, including downstream, integration and infrastructure required to move, store and process energy and materials. In addition, we expect investment to continue in areas like fertilizers with a focus on food security. Worley's scale, capability and execution expertise across energy, chemicals and resources positions us to support our customers' immediate needs while enabling long-term investment programs. Risk discipline is fundamental to how we scale. And as we expand AI-enabled full project delivery and selectively enter growth markets, we apply a returns-focused approach to bidding, execution and market entry with a clear threshold for risk and returns and capital exposure. That discipline means we're selective, and this includes not pursuing, as I've said, I'm going to keep saying, we will not pursue competitively bid lump sum turnkey EPC work. This approach has underpinned our growth to date and remains a competitive advantage as we continue to scale. We have a clear ambition to deliver double-digit medium-term underlying EBITDA CAGR. And FY30 provides a reference point for where we see the business heading and how we intend to create a meaningful higher level of earnings over time. The drivers of that ambition are already in motion. Structural demand across energy, chemicals and resources driving organic growth in our core business. Scaling full project delivery to capture more value per project with clear risk limits. Selective expansion into future-facing growth markets. All supported by AI, digital and global integrated delivery. Will we see linear growth year on year? That's not how the world operates. It's not how markets operate. It's not the nature of the business we're in. And as we take on larger projects over longer time frames, we'll have to factor in the earnings profile. But we're confident in the direction because it's anchored in long duration demand, strong customer relationships and capabilities we already have to continue to scale. With that, I'm going to hand over to Andy, who's going to take you through the strategy in detail, the growth markets that we're prioritizing, and how we're delivering today and into the future. So Andy, over to you.
Thank you, Chris. Can you hear me? Perfect. Good morning, everybody. So Chris has set out our ambition, and I'll deep dive into 4 areas that underpin our confidence in it. The first, where capital is flowing, and why that matters for Worley. Second, how full project delivery helps us capture more of that spend. Third, where we're strengthening our core market position while expanding into future-facing markets. And finally, how we drive value through differentiated capabilities, relationships, and partnerships. So firstly, where's the capital flowing? And why are we confident those tailwinds are durable? Building on the energy trilemma, we're seeing a clear shift in customer priorities. Sustainability still matters, but right now, security of supply and affordability are driving market dynamics. Gas and LNG continue to play an important role in the energy transition. At the same time, AI is driving a new wave of power demand through data centers, networks, and large-scale compute. These materially more power-intensive assets are driving investment not just in generation, but also in transmission, grid connection, and site infrastructure. We're also seeing strong demand in resources, particularly in copper, battery materials, and fertilizers, driven by factors such as electrification, energy demand, and food security. So the headline is simple. These are large and growing markets. Now, of course, not all of the spend is addressable to Worley. However, the scale matters. It supports a sustained pipeline across energy, chemicals, and resources, as well as complex critical infrastructure for many years. And Worley starts from a position of strength in relation to this opportunity. We have an established platform with a global scale, deep customer relationships, and life cycle capability. And as these energy-intensive capital projects get larger and more complex, customers want partners who can take on more of the delivery scope with greater certainty and importantly, deliver outcomes. And this is exactly where full project delivery matters. So let's hear from 3 of our customers about what this means to them in practice.
The world's most critical projects demand more than great engineering. Capital is committed carefully, timelines are tighter, risk tolerance is lower.
When we launched the G2K project, we had significant challenges, mainly in terms of distance, of elevation, of integration in our destination plant. We were lucky when Worley, through GISA, to bring the engineering and the construction authority to make a decision in confidence and to empower the ecosystem involved in the project.
For decades, Worley has been known for our technical expertise, shaping complex projects and helping customers make the right decisions early. Demand for disciplined, value-based, high-quality project execution is increasing, and Worley is scaling how we deliver.
Worley has designed and constructed some extraordinarily complex facilities for us that require multiple systems and large pieces of equipment connected. And a lot of our infrastructure is in quite harsh climates and in remote areas.
Our projects often involve multiple sub-projects. For example, if it's a pipeline leading to an LNG facility, They're actually very distinct engineering solutions and distinct construction solutions. But knowing how the two will interface and how one will impact the other, Worley's allowed us to access all parts of their business through a single interface.
Customers want a partner who is with them across the entire journey, from early concept to a working asset. We call this full project delivery.
Clients really want Worley to come in and shepherd the project start to finish with confidence, quality, and safety in mind.
We engage Worley very early on, and they're very willing and able to help us at the very earliest stages of a project so that we can develop it in a way that's most efficient without any lost time along the way.
Key acquisitions and decades of experience have strengthened our EPC capability and ability to execute at scale. Combining our consulting and EPC capabilities, this approach is enabled by AI and digital. Trust is earned by delivering for customers in more markets and on increasingly complex projects, including some of the world's largest and most critical assets and infrastructure.
Worley offered a very flexible approach. We could engage with them if we need to add people, remove people, expand the scope, shrink the scope, speed it up, surge. And so for me, the main thing I found was their flexibility in bringing experts to the table.
Worley is not just a contractor. He's a high level and genuine partner that we can rely on it every time. Worley has earned our trust.
This is at the heart of our ambition. We're partnering with customers along the value chain to turn complex projects into assets that work on time with predictability and ready to generate returns.
It's about bringing solutions to our customers to meet their end goals. Simple as that.
That's the value of full project delivery.
It almost doesn't need any words. It speaks for itself. But, you know, what I really love about that video is it talks about working with our partnerships, our customers in partnership to deliver outcomes. So full project delivery gives us access to a materially larger share of our customers' capital spend across the life of the project. But it also deepens our relationships. In a typical project, more than 75% of the total installed cost sits in execution. And that's where schedule, cost, quality, and safety outcomes are delivered, and where certainty creates the most value for customers. So when we scale full project delivery, we're moving deeper into the phase of the project where most of the value sits for our customers and for Worley. Now, EPC and EPCM have been a long part of Worley for a long time. We've delivered more than 300 projects in the last 5 years alone. What's changing is that we are now scaling that capability, and that's supported by AI-enabled workflows, more integrated delivery from concept through execution and into operations. And Laura will take you through the digital and AI aspects in more detail later. So turning now to the question of where we're choosing to play. And we are focused where we already have customer access and proven delivery capability. And there are two parts to that. First, we are strengthening our position in our core, especially where we see the strongest growth opportunities. And that includes things like integrated gas and LNG, but also energy transition materials like copper and battery materials. And in chemicals, refining and petrochemicals, with a focus on supply chain resiliency. Second, we're expanding selectively into complex critical infrastructure, where demand is growing and where our capability transfers. And to be clear, this is not about stepping away from our current markets. We will continue to support customers across energy, chemicals, and resources. What is changing is that we are leaning further into specific future-facing growth markets, including complex critical infrastructure, where capital is flowing growth potential is strong, and a credible path to scale exists. So the bottom line is this: we are increasing the size of the market we can play in. The way I like to think of it is we're increasing the share of the customer spend we can access through AI-enabled full project delivery by going deeper into our ECR markets and then going wider into complex critical infrastructure. So this essentially doubles our exposure to capital expenditure in the market. Now let me now dimension the opportunity we see in priority markets, and I'll start with LNG and integrated gas. So the central role gas plays in the energy security and the transition continues, and it continues to support investment right across the value chain. We already have real scale here, from upstream and processing through to LNG liquefaction and regasification infrastructure. And we work with over 15 energy majors, and we have history on 40% of the world's floating storage and regasification units. You heard earlier from Brendan Duval at Glenfarm why they chose to work with us on both Alaska LNG Phase 1 and Texas LNG. And this week we announced an agreement with Baker Hughes to jointly pursue LNG opportunities. So here we already have scale, momentum, and room to grow. Copper and battery materials are seeing strong investment because electrification is metals intensive, and that new supply takes time to develop. That's driving more complex and larger programs, and that really plays to Worley's strength. We have more than 100 years of experience in copper. We've delivered more than 350 lithium projects and more than 4,000 bauxite, alumina and aluminium projects and studies. And resources is our fastest growing sector. What matters here is not just demand growth. These are long-dated capital programs that sustain across years. And they support a reliable pipeline of opportunities to shape the projects early in consulting and then pull that through and continue into execution and delivery. So let's turn to complex critical infrastructure. The power is a clear growth market driven by electrification, rising load, grid stability, and new industrial capacity. And Worley brings over 100 years of experience in power generation and distribution projects. So, this is not new for us. And we do large standalone projects like the recently announced work for Dow's Path to Zero Cogen project in Canada. And what you find now is large-scale power generation is increasingly a key part of complex projects that we deliver. In the US, we're building a power plant that could power a city the size of Brisbane. So while power is a growth market in its own right, it's a component of opportunities beyond. And data centers is a great example. Now, everybody's talking about data centers at the moment. But the question is, why does this matter to Worley? And why now? And the answer is that these are no longer just buildings and the domain of developers. They are complex, power-intensive industrial assets. Hyperscalers want and need significant infrastructure behind the meter. The scale and the complexity of the customer need has changed. A 1 gigawatt data center uses the power equivalent to powering 800,000 homes. And data centers today need integrated infrastructure, power generation, cooling, water, site delivery, all brought together at speed with a high degree of certainty. And that plays directly to our strengths. And we're already doing work in this area with 8 new customers secured in FY26 alone. And importantly, we're technology agnostic. And this matters because the right solution will vary by location, equipment availability, and increasingly today, supply chain constraints. And customers often need creative ways to work through those constraints, which is where our integration capability is valuable. Next up, we have nuclear, where policy support and customer interest are increasing, as many countries look for firm, reliable, low-carbon power. Worley has an established position here with more than 60 years of experience in the nuclear industry, from studies through to engineering through to construction management. And our Chemetics business in Canada adds nuclear certified fabrication capability, which expands our ability to support customers in the market. Now, this same logic applies in areas where we see potential, like industrial water and ports and terminals. In industrial water, customers are facing growing pressure around water availability, treatment, reuse, discharge, and particularly as projects get larger and more complex and more resource intensive. Investment is also occurring in ports and terminals. Here, there is a need to move greater volumes and improve supply chain resiliency. These are different markets, but the common thread is the same. They rely on complex industrial infrastructure, integrated delivery, and most important of all, execution certainty. All areas where Worley already has relevant capability. An important part of how we evolve commercial models, an important part of our strategy is how we evolve commercial models to share in the value that we create for our customers, particularly as we expand our AI full project delivery capability. Across the portfolio, that can range from time-based delivery to output and outcome-focused structures, where we share in the value that is created for customers. This is not theory. We're already doing this with our customers. We're using standardized execution, global delivery, digitally enabled workflows to lift productivity and predictability. And I'll give you an example. In one of our long-term customer relationships, we were able to reduce their CapEx by 10% in a single year while maintaining delivery quality. And under a value-aligned gain share model, we shared in a portion of those verified savings. And just to be clear, and I know Chris has emphasized this, but our risk settings are not changing. We will not, and we do not, do competitively bid lump sum turnkey. To close, let me recap 4 key takeaways. Number 1, we're positioned to where the capital is flowing and the tailwinds are strong. Number 2, we're scaling AI-enabled full project delivery to grow our market share. 3, we're strengthening our core ECR and expanding into future-facing markets. And finally, we're driving value through differentiated capability, strong customer relationships, as you've seen, and partnerships. And with that, I'll hand over to Laura, who will take you through how digital and AI underpin this strategy and what it looks like in practice.
Thank you, Andy, and good morning. Chris and Andy have spoken about Worley's growth strategy and the focus we're bringing to full project delivery and growth markets. I'll demonstrate how we're leveraging digital and AI as key enablers of this strategy. I'll cover 3 themes. First, the foundations we've built that position us to deploy AI responsibly at enterprise scale. Second, we're applying AI across the full project delivery lifecycle to improve our margin quality and customer project outcomes. And finally, proven solutions already in use, delivering value now. We've spoken to you about digital and AI at investor days and results briefings before.
Over the past couple of years, you have seen us put the foundational building blocks in place to embed digital and AI in how we operate. We are now able to leverage a repeatable sequence, build core capabilities such as data, governance, and strategic partners, prove business value, and then scale enterprise impact. By following this sequence, we have avoided pilot purgatory and are accelerating value realization. We know that strong AI governance is what enables AI to be scaled securely and responsibly, which is important to us and to our customers. These ethical principles underpin every deployment at Worley. We're applying AI across two fronts. In our enterprise functions, we're improving productivity and consistency. And in customer project delivery, we are improving outcomes across the life cycle. At this point in our digital evolution, we have made deliberate choices to focus on where the value is the greatest. For our customers, these are schedule, quality, safety, and the total installed cost of their asset. For Worley, the value of differentiated AI-enabled services is enhanced and protected margin, expansion of our addressable market, and value-based customer relationships. AI doesn't happen in a vacuum. The value Worley brings is our decades of expertise, not just in the data we have, but in our specialized talent. The complexity of full project delivery demands human judgment and oversight across all stages of projects to ensure that digital concepts can be applied practically and safely. This video will explain our approach to AI-enabled project delivery.
AI is changing how industries operate and how projects come to life. When it comes to delivering projects the world relies on, the question is not if AI will play a role, it's how. With the strong AI foundations we've built at Worley, our trusted partnerships with providers and experience developing our own AI and digital tools, we're moving from capability to customer impact by integrating AI directly into how we deliver projects. Technology is central to how we scale and differentiate our global project delivery capability. From concept through execution to operation, we're deploying AI and digital solutions across the project lifecycle. Our customers see value in improved project speed, greater quality, and lower total installed asset costs. Across the project lifecycle, we're building predictive project management to sharpen decision-making, AI-enhanced engineering to lift constructability and boost our expertise, generative scheduling to optimize sequencing and resources, AI-driven procurement to reduce risk and shorten lead times, on-site AI to improve planning, execution, and safety outcomes. Our approach is designed to meet each customer's needs and their technology environment. And while AI is an enabler, it's not a substitute for human expertise, particularly when digital analysis meets real-world constraints. That's where Worley adds the most value, at the interface between the digital and physical worlds, where human judgment and accountability remain essential. Together with our 5 decades of expertise and responsible governance, our ecosystem of tools, systems, and partners is coming together to develop seamless capability for delivering projects end-to-end. As AI capability expands, so will predictability and value realization for customers. Because at Worley, our digital and AI capability isn't an add-on. It's how we deliver.
I hope from this video you can see both where we are today and where we're headed with respect to delivering value to customers, and why we have confidence in the durability of our business model. Our work sits at the interface of digital and physical worlds. and our focus on full project delivery means we are following projects from probabilistic analysis to the deterministic decisions that require human judgment to put a physical asset on the ground. The solutions I'm going to share with you show how we're targeting what customers value most. Faster, higher quality decisions, greater predictability in delivery, and lower total installed cost. By creating value for customers, we're addressing what matters to them, directly contributing to their growth and ours. By embedding AI into delivery workflows, we can reduce the cycle time to final investment decisions and improve delivery confidence and predictability. In this way, we become a more trusted, value-adding partner, both in our existing and emerging growth markets. Finally, let's turn our attention to tangible AI solutions that are delivering value that will compound over time. Last year, we talked to you about advanced work packaging, our digital solution that improves constructability by designing with the end in mind. With advanced work packaging, we improve construction certainty, translating into better schedule performance, fewer surprises, and more predictable outcomes on site. Now, we are further enhancing this by deploying an AI-enabled solution that sequences installation work packages. On large construction sites, installation work package sequencing can break down quickly if it's static. Our AI sequence plan tool addresses this by treating construction sequencing as a live, data-driven system, not a static schedule. AI.sequenceplan automates sequencing and resequencing of installation work packages. It enables predictable project delivery. This is something customers are willing to pay for because it protects total installed cost, schedule, and value realization, and aligns with the output and outcome-based commercial models Andy spoke to earlier. In project procurement, cycle time, risk discipline, and decision quality have a direct knock-on effect on delivery. Last year, we showed you our AI.vendorselect tools that increase speed and consistency in technical bid evaluation. Since then, we've extended the capabilities of these tools from technical bid evaluation to commercial bid evaluation, improving the accuracy and transparency so that we can select the right vendors faster with clearer trade-offs and stronger auditability. This matters because procurement is an early lever on predictability. Better vendor selection, clearer scope decisions, reduce late change, rework, and schedule disruption downstream. You can expect to see us continue to compound value as the value we deliver to our customers as we further scale AI deployment. We have a disciplined pathway to scale, embedding proven tools into core workflows, extending capabilities across the project lifecycle and into adjacent functions, augmenting the impact of our subject matter experts, and scaling enterprise adoption as using AI to surface insights earlier, while keeping accountability, engineering judgment, and approval with our people. To emphasize the themes we started with, leveraging AI at Worley means strong foundations in place that position us to deploy AI responsibly and at scale. Applying AI across our enterprise functions and the full project delivery lifecycle. And scaling proven solutions already in use to deliver value to our customers and our investors. AI is step changing how we design, plan, and execute projects. To illustrate how AI directly supports our strategy, I'll leave you with a short video on our partnership with NVIDIA. It demonstrates how we're applying Omniverse technology to data center design. Using the NVIDIA Omniverse, we can model real-world operating conditions, bringing power, cooling, storage, and on-site generation together in one environment. This allows us to design AI data centers that respond seamlessly to volatility. With this technology, Worley can deliver designs and simulations that improve capital efficiency and operational performance, helping data center developers and operators achieve better outcomes and make better informed decisions.
The unpredictable is actually predictable. Power swings, thermal swings, grid constraints. It can look like chaos until you design the whole system as one. AI data center workloads are highly variable, with processing loads that can spike rapidly, sometimes by 30%, placing immediate pressure on power and cooling systems. Furthermore, utilities prioritize predictable load profiles, so they can plan ramps and manage peak demand. The challenge is designing an optimized, integrated system where power and cooling can respond instantly to fluctuating AI compute demand, while buffering the impact on the grid. That's why Worley's partnering with NVIDIA. Presenting an Omniverse-enabled approach, Worley brings electrical infrastructure, cooling, storage, and generation together, helping developers and operators optimize capital, accelerate grid connections, and confidently integrate grid supply with on-site generation. The result is reduced time to first token and optimized tokens per watt. When AI workloads spike, our integrated design coordinates batteries, thermal storage, and on-site generation to absorb the shock. Batteries respond instantly. Power is diverted from chillers back to the data center. Thermal storage supports cooling needs, maintaining steady grid demand and on-site generation. The system meets the chip's power demand in real time. Spikes aren't the only challenge. Worley is designing for a future where data centers can operate as demand response resources, rapidly reducing grid draw during peak periods or grid stress events. When the operator issues a curtailment signal, the data center holds its critical load by dispatching thermal storage, discharging batteries, and ramping on-site generation if needed. That flexibility accelerates interconnection and frees up capacity for the grid. Using Omniverse, Worley combines physics-based simulation with deep expertise in power and complex infrastructure. Generation, cooling, storage, and control systems are modeled together as one system before anything is built. For developers, this means predicting outcomes, testing strategies, and optimizing designs early, supporting grid connection, constructability, and faster time to first token. For operators, it delivers faster system response, improved chip utilization, right-sized equipment, and longer asset life, ultimately improving tokens per watt. Demand cycles may be unpredictable, but managing them is not. Worley helps data centers perform, no matter how the demand shifts.
So I'd like to welcome Mark Truman and Mark Brantley, who'll be talking to us about the current state of the market and some of the key elements around how we're executing our strategy. So many of you would already know Mark and Mark, but for those of you who don't, let me introduce them. So Mark Brantley is President of Global Operations, and Mark Truman is President of Major Projects and Programs. So these events are also an opportunity to introduce our investors to other senior leaders within our business. And so I'd like to welcome Rochelle Gabel, who is Senior Vice President, Power, Chemicals and Fuels. And Rochelle is here from Houston. Ross McPherson, our President of Americas. Ross is also based in Houston. And then Jim Shaughnessy joins us from London. And Jim is the President of EMEA, Major Projects and Programs. Great. So thanks for joining us. So Mark Branley, I'll start with a question for you. Hisham talked about our Middle East business. How have those events impacted industry sentiment beyond the region, and what conversations are you having around critical infrastructure and energy security?
Thank you, Kylie. Good to be with you all again this year. Chris and Hisham spoke about these events leading to a discussion about energy security, and we're hearing that in a global, discussion in all the countries and with our customers. We see this as an opportunity that we can help with our customers figure out how they're going to address the energy security concerns. It's early days, it's still unfolding, but while in conjunction we're talking to the customers and seeing how they're going to scope to address the concerns, what projects that they're going to move forward with, and a lot of places they're looking at 3, 4, 5 different options to address it, and we're helping them with that. And then the pace, how fast are they going to deploy the capital is important to help us, and that's been referenced earlier. We may see refocus more on renewable energies, and sustainable aviation fuel is one of those. And here in Australia, I'm sure you've seen it in the news, the discussion about energy security, and the customers here trying to figure out, what options that they're going to do, and we're offering our support in that. That same discussion's happening globally with our customers, and it's going to be interesting to see, the pace that they're going to move forward. We're there. We feel like we're very positioned to help them.
Great. And Mark T, the current conflict has brought a lot more attention to traditional oil and gas. Can you tell us how we're supporting our customers in that traditional oil and gas space?
Yeah, thanks, Golly. Hi, everyone. Good to be here again. Look, the Middle East definitely shone a light on energy security, as Mark spoke about. But actually, even before the conflict in the Middle East, we'd seen very publicly a shift back to conventional energy from the sustainable side. And Shell, BP, Total very publicly have doubled down on return on capital and much more discipline about capital allocation into the conventional space. So that's LNG in North America, so for us, CP2, Alaska LNG, and the other projects, we announced Aphrodite with Chevron in the Mediterranean. So Venezuela's coming back to life. So the conventional markets were actually already, back on the move with that pendulum swinging back towards conventional energy.
Mm. And turning to our competitive landscape now, investors often ask us how the playing field has changed over the years. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, look, it's changed. We talk about that a bit, and over the last 10 years, certainly the competitive landscape's changed significantly, and there's been consolidation, and we've been a part of that with Jacobs ECR and a component of Amex Foster Wheeler. We've seen competitors move out of the energy, chemicals and resources sector to focus on government solutions or infrastructure. And then, frankly, we've seen some of our competitors get into a whole lot of financial pain by taking on bad projects and delivering them poorly. So, that's helped us in our position. But, really importantly, and I was talking to someone just at the break, the credibility that we have created with the delivery of major projects and getting them under the belt and showing great performance is actually really enhancing our position. And we're having very different conversations with our customers around full projects than we've had in the past. And, that's based on the great work that our people around the world are doing.
And at last year's Investor Day, we announced a reorganisation of our business into global operations and global major projects and programs. Can you tell us how that's positioned Worley better to win and gain market share?
Yeah, sure. I think what stands out is Mark and his team being able to focus on the major projects, which takes a lot of focus and energy from the pursuit phase, working with customers, you win it, and getting the project set up and then executing them. And that's allowed me and my team, the global operations, to focus on everything else in the base load of our business, which is small cap alliances, our portfolios that we have globally, executing small and medium-sized projects. And in that, we do all kind of phases. We'll do just engineering. We might just do consulting. We might do the engineering procurement or full project delivery as well. But it's allowed us to, bring laser focus on that. And of course, we still work together with our teams on executing the work.
And then from the, on the major projects, we've actually had a great year. I mean, it was a bold decision, and it's really made a difference to allow me and the team and folks like Jim to focus on delivering what we've got, and everything that we have, we're delivering really well, touch wood. We've won the projects that we said we really needed to win. And just going back on what we're delivering, I mean, Chris mentioned CP2. That's been a huge effort, and Amanda Nost, who had a cameo on the video, and the team, to have our customers stand in front of their investors to talk about astonishing performance. And as Chris said, the fastest LNG project to go from FID to first gas. We've got to get there, but we're well on track. Really proud of the team. It's what we do. That's the best form of business development, quite frankly. In Stratos, and we've got Sean Murphy here, good-looking gentleman. He'll be on the booth. Very public endorsement from our customer about the improvements that we've made from phase 1 to phase 2 and the value that we're bringing. We're winning the projects that we need to. We've announced them. We announced Heidelberg carbon capture, Alaska LNG, and it's very broad. It's across regions and it's across commodities and phosphates, potash, LNG, carbon capture, power. I'm sure about pipelines. So we've had a really strong year.
And Mark, how are customer expectations changing? That's really supporting our move more into full project delivery.
So when we're doing the large projects, the expectations are predictable delivery. Massive capital decisions are being made, and frankly, the zipper that I have and Jim have and the others, it's their personal career reputations are won and lost based on our performance. So it's a very different dialogue that we have, but we've got to be predictable in how we deliver. We've got to turn up with world's best delivery systems, and Laura talked about advanced work packaging. We think we've got a real differentiated position there. We have to bring a full global Worley response. It can't just be a location response. It's the best of Worley. And then bringing the full supply chain in. So buying China where that's relevant, buying India, buying Mexico, just bringing that full global response. So that's what we've got to do and deliver it really, really well.
Mike, did you have anything further you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, from the global operations, everything Mark was saying about the major projects we do for the small and mid-size projects, and we definitely see the customers in the full project delivery coming to us where they might not have in the past, where we do just engineering or engineering procurement. Now they're asking, hey, can you step up and do the full project for us? And they want the trusted partners to do it. With the AI digital solutions, it's going to help. So what Mark and his team are talking about on the big projects, we're deploying on the small and medium, and we're going to support our customers. In the sales funnel, we see a lot more in number of projects in that as well.
Great. So I know a lot of our investors want to know how we're actually managing our risk and cash flow around these major projects and full project delivery.
So I'll answer that, and I'll split risk and cash flow. So cash flow, particularly for the EPCs, there's an expectation in the industry, and including with our customers, that we are paid. We get better cash terms, and particularly for the EPC, paid in advance or cash flow neutral. And that allows us to pass that down through vendors and make sure that we've got everything ready. There's no excuses. So we're actually seeing much improved DSO, and so a lighter use of working capital. Risk, I think Andy said it twice. I think Chris probably said it twice. We're not changing our risk profile. We're taking on more risk just because of the scale and the reputation, and that's why we've brought in a whole lot of additional governance, and we're bringing in industry experts like the gentleman sitting next to me. But our contract risk, sit down. We make sure that we're working with the customers, and particularly when we start at the beginning, so at concept phase, we're actually designing how we're going to deliver it with our customers together on the way through, and make sure there's really clear understanding of risk. But we're very conservative about it, and we haven't changed our contract risk profile.
Great. So now we'll bring some of our sector leads and business leads into the conversation. And Mark just referenced Jim, that you've joined us recently. You joined us from one of our major competitors just on 12 months ago. Can you talk to what attracted you to Worley and what the opportunity is that you see for us?
Yeah, thank you, Kylie. I guess bringing 40 years of project delivery experience to Worley, I was truly excited about the step out and the expansion of the full project delivery as well as the growth ambition. I think Worley's platform of broad services positions us exceptionally well. I think working with this leadership team and our teams below, the desire to achieve and the ambition is palpable for the business, and I'm really excited to be here to help shape the future. I actually think Worley has a superpower, and that's the broad depth, range and connectivity with our clients. I think that's a platform from which we can build upon. Andy talked earlier around how we need to position earlier, and I think that's an absolute must in order to actually position, de-risk our clients' projects, create that predictability, and then again, as Andy said, that allows us to look at innovation in our commercial models, take the value out of that predictability and work with our clients. So personally, I'm really, really excited to be here and be part of the journey.
Great. Well, welcome to Worley, 12 months on. What I'd really like to know also is while you've got the floor, on EMEA region, what are the opportunities that you really see within that region?
Yeah, as both Mark and Mark have said, we've got a strong delivery platform already, and in the EMEA region, we're leveraging that. So we're bringing the consistent tools, processes and systems into the region. We're thinking and operating globally. We're bringing talent from across the business to help us deliver and shape the opportunities that we have in front of us, as well as bringing in further talent and training our current talent to allow us to position for that. I think what's also important is to recognise that we're already delivering at scale and complexity in the region. So the Marden project in Saudi Arabia is a good example of that. The Heidelberg project, which is more recent, again, another great example of scale and complexity into the business. As Mark mentioned, the conversations we're having with our clients are different. We're having conversations around how to create capacity, how to create surety, how to work with the supply chain to deliver the predictability in the business. And that's allowing us to strengthen our pipeline as well, which is what we're doing, which is great to see. And that pipeline strengthening across multiple sectors to allow us to balance that business view of working across those sectors and deliver our growth. So those sectors are power, resources, as well as carbon capture and sustainable airfields. So a great position to be in.
And Ross, the Americas now makes up almost 50% of our revenue. We're executing some major projects across the region. Can you talk to the opportunities there, and particularly again in full project delivery?
Yeah, thanks Kylie, and great to be here in person with you guys today. Just to build on one of Mark's earlier comments, it's really important we continue to deliver and deliver well against those projects that we have in-house. That sets us up for long-term sustained growth. Without putting a number to it or a cap on it, there's certainly a great number of opportunities out there. We're building on the back of some success with the likes of Oxy in the US, Pembina in Canada, Rio in LATAM, just continues to see growing demand for EPC and EPCM services across the region as well as globally. If I step back and look at the market in general terms, we're certainly seeing uptick in the pipeline across resources, power, LNG, as well as a resurgence in oil and gas activity and spend. So really confident we're well placed to execute on that, leverage the existing capabilities that we have domestically, as well as our GID centres in India and Bogota. The other piece that I would add to that, continue to make strategic hires, bringing on board guys like Jim and John Gribble in the Americas strengthens not only construction management capability, but wider full project delivery personnel. And then underpinned by some of what you heard today from Laura in tools and systems, which creates the infrastructure to allow us to get after, win more of those projects and then execute on those projects thereafter.
You mentioned LNG. We've got an established presence. We've got a solid track record in delivering projects on LNG already. Ross, what more opportunities do you see in LNG? How can we leverage the growth in this market?
significant market opportunity ahead. The team have done a fantastic job, to your point, Kylie, in creating a differentiated position. You heard from Amanda on the screen in CP2, Nick Cuban's working with Glenfarm and Alaska LNG, and then wider afield, Paul Hughes and the team have done a fantastic job in Germany with Brunsbüttel on the import terminal. Andy touched on the market and the size of the prize in LNG. We've identified $230 billion of CapEx opportunity across integrated gas. You only have to look at recent challenges in the Middle East. Some of the geopolitical tensions and disruption has reinforced the need for resilient gas supplies globally. So we've got the right teams in the right places to execute on that. What you also saw today, and hopefully you'll see more of going forward, is beginning to leverage partnerships like Baker Hughes, which will give us greater access across the globe, as well as open up the aperture from concept through to commissioning for those opportunities ahead.
Okay. And Jim, Andy had talked about growth in resources and energy transition materials. Can you tell us what opportunities you see in that space?
Yeah, I mean, Andy shared the fact that, these raw materials, the demand is there. We can see that operating across all of the sectors that we operate in. The economic fundamentals are strong as well and not constrained by geopolitics. So the client conversations that we're having, again, they're about how the projects are more complex, deeper underground facilities, and they're wanting to create that capacity and capture that capability in the market. So we're having very early conversations around how to understand their portfolios better and share those portfolios with us to allow us to position well in that market. I think if you look at the various regions, we've got strength of our pipeline increasing in South America, Canada, Australia, as well as Europe and the UK. So we have a tremendous depth in the market. In the fertilizer space, we continue to grow our position. The Marden project, we're already working on the next phases of those projects as well, and building that relationship with Marden as they build out their phosphate portfolio.
Jim covered it really well. If I just double click on the Americas briefly, it makes up, resources sector makes up over a third of our pipeline going forward. So significant size and scale and opportunity ahead. If I'm to break that down into the three sub-regions in which we operate, Canada, we've seen a return to spend in battery active materials, copper, as well as gold. If I look at LATAM in general, significant growth across the pipeline and talk to decade-long cycles of investment driven by some of the macro trends that you saw earlier on. Even in the US, on the back of the Critical Minerals Act and some of the amendments there, we are starting to see green shoots of opportunity building and can position early for those. What I really like about the resources sector, it's driven by fundamentals. You can see through the growth of power and AI that copper and the demand for copper will continue to exist. Government subsidies aren't required. So we're well placed, looking forward to that market continuing to come to fruition over the next couple of years as well.
So if we turn now to complex critical infrastructure, which we've identified as a growth market. Rochelle, how are we positioned to capture work around data centres, and can you talk to the new customer set that we're building there?
Yeah, thank you, Kylie, and it's a pleasure to be here with everybody today. So the data center ecosystem is evolving rapidly, and it's creating major challenges. And this is where Worley is leaning into play with this. So the actual workload per chip is increasing. So we're putting more information and more compute through the data center. The capacity per chip is increasing, which means the power per chip is increasing. The footprint of the data centers is densifying, and so now it's increasing to a point where it generally can't be supplied by just the grid alone. We're at a stage where they're looking at some sort of supplemental on-site generation to be able to support this. The data center workload requires a high level of reliability, a 99.999% uptime of reliability. In addition, data centers are challenged with water scarcity, so siting the data center and figuring that out is a challenge that's really truly emerging as we get to these larger scale. And additionally, There is a supply chain constraint on turbines and substation equipment as well. And of course, our customers want these data centers built at lightning fast speed. So fortunately, Worley we thrive in solving complex challenges. And we're focused around the data centers really around how do we help with the integration from the grid, the on-site generation, the battery storage, and the on-site cooling that has to happen for the data center. We work with our customers early, and I think Jim mentioned it perfectly, is, we need to be in with our customers early. So working with them on site identification, permitting, then helping them through design and into construction. And for data centers, we're working with hyperscalers, we're working with mission-critical integrators, as well as project developers. And one example of a project developer that we're working with is a company called BCEI, who's a global company. They've been developing data centers on a global basis, but now as the mission has shifted to larger-sized data centers, we've been engaged with them to help them with their on-site power generation assets.
And Rochelle, a lot of our investors ask us about our capability in nuclear. Can you talk to our capability and the opportunity that we see there?
Sure, yes. So Andy mentioned about how we've been working with nuclear projects for over 60 years. And we have a footprint where we have a center of excellence out of Bulgaria. We fabricate key mechanical components out of Canada, and we're actively investing in our U.S. capabilities. We're doing this because nuclear is really a future investment. There's projects now, and getting in early now is important with our customers, but it's really about being positioned for when future capital flows into this space. It's important because nuclear, you think about the reliability aspect. You're looking at data centers, reliability is a critical piece. Nuclear is truly the only energy source that is going to be able to create that reliability and that much of an uptime. It's also a clean energy source, so it really is the long-term future. But these projects take a long time to build out. So an example of us working early with a customer is with Bruce Power. And we've been working with Bruce Power on their technology evaluation for their proposed Bruce C project in Ontario. And this is Canada's first large-scale nuclear project that's been announced in over 30 years. So we're really positioning ourselves early and being ready for and having that relationship with our customers as these projects develop over time.
Okay, and we've talked a bit about partnerships, and we've announced a few this week. Just want to ask, how important are these strategic partnerships to getting more position in this space?
Oh yeah. So just taking nuclear alone, thinking about this, these projects are very large, very complex, and truly they haven't been developed at scale, in 30 years. So really, nobody has the competencies to deliver these projects alone. It's going to require partners to be able to support these projects. And I've been working with Jim on these as well. We've been working on kind of building out these partnerships and looking at it from both technology as well as execution partners to be able to support and position us. And it's important because this helps to de-risk the project for the customer, but also for Worley as well. But this isn't just a story around nuclear. It's also something we're doing across all of our sectors. And I think the example with Baker Hughes is a perfect example in that.
So just continuing on this theme, Ross, long-term customer relationships are really important for our business. Can you also then talk about the importance of global programs?
Yeah, just building on what Rochelle mentioned, and you saw in the video earlier on, long-standing core customer relationships has been at the heart of what Worley does now since inception and continues to play a large part of our future going forward. We're very proud of some of those relationships that we have. If I look at the 30-year relationship with Aramco, for example, we've also got a 10-year active master service agreement with Chevron, where we partner with them globally to provide engineering services. A little closer to home, continue to support Rio and BHP here as well. What those program and alliances provide is steady, stable earnings for the group, as well as an opportunity and a platform to learn and grow together with our customers, try new ideas, operating efficiencies and partnerships and innovation solutions, and bringing them to the market together. So really critical for what we do. We have 150 of them globally that we're very proud of, and I continue to see that growing going forward.
And Jim, our global integrated delivery model, how quickly can we scale that? And are you seeing a greater willingness from customers to work with us using that model?
Yeah, I'll start with the JID offering. As somebody who's worked with JID for over 20 years, I would say Worley's offering to the market is exceptional and market leading. We have 7,000 talented individuals across 8 offices, already delivering at scale across global operations and major projects. So we've got the foundation and the platform to build. We continue to invest in that. We continue to invest in connecting between our global offices so that we can create that relationship to allow us to deliver predictably and with confidence. In terms of the clients, they are absolutely desiring the offering and the value that we bring through our GID offering. Again, it's a differentiator, and again, it's already operating at scale. So right now, we just got to build that out and continue to do what we're doing. The systems and tools allow us to operate in a common environment, so we're always working in the same systems, process and tools to build out these projects, and therefore that again is a value-added position. So I think our position is strong. Our clients are desiring it. And very simply, it's now our business as usual model that will continue to deliver.
Laura talked about our digital project delivery. Jim, I know investors would like to hear about some real examples about how that differentiates us from our competitors.
Yeah, again, Laura mentioned it earlier. We've driven our systems with a construction-led lens to it. So we're driving it from the spectrum of how does this deliver, and our clients turn the keys on and operate these facilities all the way back through the processes. That enhances our ability to use the likes of AWP and again drive that into our engineering processes and position everything so we can create greater certainty through our schedules, greater certainty through our quality of work, and ultimately greater predictability. I think the fact that we've got the tools that allow us in real time to understand data, understand information, gives us greater ability to inform ourselves, make decisions, because projects are complex. Things always change, so you need to be able to change, relook at where you're going, and the systems and tools that we have do that for us. And it's been recognised by our clients. And I think Brendan, that was mentioned earlier, CEO of Glenfarm, he recently made reference to the innovation and the tools that we're bringing to the market. So please come and see our booths and learn a little bit more about what we're offering to the market.
Great. So I'd like to conclude by touching on the leadership changes that Chris has shared today. We've set out our growth strategy and FY30 ambition. Mark, in your new role as Chief Commercial and Development Officer, what does delivering this ambition mean to you?
I think I'll answer it by referring to Chris's first slide, and then it was very similar in Andy's. You know, we've got a lot to get after. The ECR markets, there are good chunks of the ECR markets that we've discussed that have significant tailwinds. We're doubling down on full project delivery, supported by GID. We have opportunities with that delivery platform to move into complex critical infrastructure. And lastly, as Laura was describing, we've got to do it with an AI-enabled digital platform. So lots to get after, and it's not business as usual. We're very ambitious. We will be making very deliberate, very bold moves with our customers, doubling down on what we've been doing over the last few years with industry partners, and the Baker Hughes example that we've announced is a really good example of that. Using our position in the market, our changed position in the marketplace, And also, really importantly, it's organic growth, but it's also inorganic growth. So it's a new role. Chris has given me a fairly broad remit to work with the group executive and go out and really drive growth in the business with a strong focus on EPS accretion, of course, improved returns on invested capital for that sustained value creation. So I'm pretty excited about how we're going to go forth and really shoot the lights out with our aspirations.
Great. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Jim, Michelle, and Ross. We really appreciate your insights, sharing them with the investors today, and your thoughts on the business opportunities ahead. So we're just going to take a moment to reset the stage. Then I'd like to invite Justine to talk through our approach and initiatives supporting our capital management.
Make sure we're on. Good morning, everyone. I'm Justine Travers. I'm really pleased to be here this morning, and really I want to discuss three things today. I want to be able to connect the strategy that you've heard to the financial outcomes that we're targeting. I want to show how we're protecting margins and remaining focused on cash as we scale, and explain how we think about capital allocation choices between reinvestment, returns to shareholders, and balance sheet strength. I will also provide an update on the ongoing FY26 transformation and restructuring work. For Worley, value creation is about doing a few things consistently well. Grow in the markets where we see strong demand drivers. Deliver that growth with discipline and convert that work into cash, deploying that cash in ways that then compound value through the cycle. There are a number of levers for how we're managing that model. We grow EBITA by scaling full project delivery, while staying disciplined on risk and contract selectivity. We're building more durability into margins through cost discipline and global integrated delivery model, and digital and AI-enabled workflows that will help us deliver more efficiently and consistently across the business. We are using the outcomes of our cost management program to reinvest into targeted priority areas to support our strategy and fuel organic growth. And underpinning all of these, we're maintaining a balance sheet strength and liquidity that is supported by strong cash conversion. And of course, we will continue to return capital to shareholders through dividends and buybacks. As you heard from Chris and Andy, we are scaling, but it is with intent, and we are ensuring that customers and contracts continue to align with our risk appetite. We are focused on disciplined bidding and project assurance so that we protect the margin quality. And we're continuing to maintain and enhance our cost discipline across the business. As the model scales, we will continue to focus on margin durability, strong cash conversion, and meaningful earnings growth over the medium term, with an ambition of double-digit medium-term underlying EBITA CAGR. As Chris stated, it will not necessarily be a straight line each year. That is not the nature of our business, but we are confident in the direction. We have a track record of delivering double-digit EBITA CAGR over the medium term. As we discussed at the half, we're transforming and restructuring to remove complexity, to improve efficiency, and to drive greater consistency in the way that we work. In the first half of the year, we acted in response to softer conditions in traditional chemical sector and some project cancellations in Western Europe. We incurred $82 million of costs in the first half. These were largely related to severance or related costs. These costs are outside the normal course of business, and given this, we reported them below the line.
As communicated in the first half, we do expect further one-off restructuring and transformation costs in the second half of the year. These, however, will be less than the costs that we incurred in the first half. I now turn to cost management and the program that we commenced at the start of the year. We will exceed the initial target of $100 million of annualized savings from FY27 onwards. We've actioned around $95 million of initiatives to date, with an additional $25 million of confirmed actions that are underway. And we will continue to look for further opportunities to take cost out of the business. This cost out program is resetting how Worley works. We are simplifying the organisation, reducing duplication, tightening spans and layers where it's needed, and standardising and centralising transactional processes so that we are well positioned in applying and using AI. To ensure the cost savings are sustained, we have strengthened a number of areas, including central cost oversight, clearer approval controls, and embedding cost tracking. The outcome of the program is twofold. Firstly, it supports our margin resilience in the near term. And second, it creates the capacity for us to reinvest capital where we see the clearest path to high quality growth. That takes me to reinvestment, and this is the next part of the value creation model. The cost savings that I've just talked about not only protect the margins, they create this capacity to reinvest. Over the next 2 years, we expect to invest around $70 million. This is not broad-based spending. It is targeted. In practical terms, this organic investment goes into building the capabilities, particularly in those areas that Andy spoke about today. It's adding strategic hires where we need to expand skill sets and relationships. It allows us to continue to scale the digital and AI tools that enhance value in execution. The goal is to access larger, longer-dated customer programs and grow in a way that is scalable and accretive. Our capital management framework helps ensure that we make consistent, value-based decisions through the cycle. And more broadly, it reflects the way that we manage the business, with discipline on cost, on cash, and on capital deployment. So firstly, we generate operating cash flow with a focus on maintaining cash conversion above 85%. That cash discipline supports the business, including lease payments, maintenance capital, and we have a minimum liquidity target of $1 billion. Only after that do we deploy capital. We consider investment for growth, returning capital to shareholders, and maintaining disciplined leverage position of at or below 2 times. This matters because it gives us the flexibility to invest in the growth platforms that we've talked about today, whilst continuing to support shareholder returns without compromising the resilience of the business. Our capital management approach looks to sustain an asset-light, cash-generative model that supports growth and returns through the cycle, and it is underpinned by an investment-grade credit rating of BBB with a stable outlook. Let me close by bringing together a number of these things: funding, capital, and returns. We're managing these together. We're maintaining our balance sheet strength and liquidity. We're reinvesting into growth and returning capital to our shareholders, all within a disciplined approach to cost, cash, and capital management. Over the past 10 years, we've returned $2.5 billion to our shareholders through dividends and our recently completed $500 million buyback program. following the successful completion of our first ever buyback in April this year, we've announced a new on-market share buyback this morning of up to 300 million. The new program demonstrates the board's continued confidence in the company's financial position and growth outlook, and its commitment to delivering shareholder value. The timing and value of shares purchased will be dependent on prevailing market conditions and share price. Our near-term FY26 debt maturities are covered through existing liquidity and committed facilities, and we have a diverse and well-distributed portfolio with access to global debt markets. The message I'll therefore leave you with: our capital allocation and funding decisions are aligned to the strategy and to the execution of the growth priorities that you've heard today. We have the balance sheet strength to invest and the discipline on cost, on cash, and on capital to do that while continuing to support shareholder returns. And with that, I'm going to pass back to Chris, and then we will move to Q&A.
Thanks, Justine. So, as you can see from the leadership team, it's focused on the opportunity ahead of us. And we've built a strong foundation, we've set clear strategic priorities, and remain disciplined in how we're going to execute. And that's really important, the disciplined execution. So before we move to questions, let me remind you and leave you with a few points. First, our FY30 ambition provides a clear reference point for where we believe the business is heading. It's underpinned by long-duration demand, strong customer relationships, and capabilities we have in place and can continue to scale. Second is our investment proposition. We're a capital-light business. We've got global scale and are disciplined in our execution with clear risk settings. Together, these fundamentals support resilient earnings throughout the life cycle. And we've already demonstrated that this model delivers. And third, we're aligned to where the capital is flowing. Some people describe this as skating to where the puck is going. We're going deeper through the full project delivery and wider through selective expansion, supported by cost discipline, our global integrated delivery capability that Jim talked about, and digital and AI in execution that Laura covered. That is what underpins our FY30 ambition and the confidence in our ability to deliver it. It captures opportunities in future-facing markets, and delivering double-digit underlying EBITDA CAGR over time is what we believe we can achieve. With that, I'm going to invite the group executive on stage, and we'll open it up to questions.
I will help moderate some questions and just actually direct them to the members of the GE, but also as you think about your questions, please remember that we've also got our subject matter experts here. You've heard from Jim, from Ross, from Rochelle. We also have Sean Murphy here, who is one of our presidents for major projects and programs, so you may also have questions for them. But before I do that, Chris, maybe just pass to you briefly.
I think we've got 30 minutes allocated, and I think it's important to use the time to allow you to ask questions that may be on your mind. Clearly we had a message we wanted to share today, and we hope to have shared that message clearly, and that it's been well understood. But certainly open to questions and let's use the time the way you like to use it. Oh, yeah, sorry. Kristen, stand up, please. So Kristen is new to the business, started with us in April as our new Chief People Officer, and you've met, I think you've met everyone else, but welcome, Kristen, to the team.
Excellent. Okay, over to the floor.
Hi, it's Niraj from Goldman Sachs. Just a couple of quick ones for me. Given the focus on scale, I guess full project delivery, how should we be thinking about the mix between professional services, construction fabrication versus procurement, I guess, in the 2030 ambition?
So maybe let me start and then we'll let others pick up. But look, clearly if you saw one of the slides that Andy put up 75% of the revenue comes from the execution side of it. So over time, as we grow the pie, or as the pie grows, the slice that we're taking out of the pie will also grow. But clearly, we see engineering growing, but also the actual delivery of the portion of the work. And given the scale of it, the scale of the opportunity, proportionally, we expect to see probably more growth in that space. But equally, the engineering portion will grow as well. But Andy?
Yeah, I think what I'd say is we step into full project delivery. There's still an extensive professional services component to that. So, every single full project delivery project has engineering services, procurement services, logistics, and then also as you get into the field, construction management and commissioning. So, yes, there'll be certain locations where we do more construction and fabrication and direct self-perform. In some areas we'll subcontract, but I see the professional services component growing as we step into full project delivery as well.
Thank you. And just a second quick one. And just to be clear on the double-digit growth ambition, to what extent is, I guess, M&A required to hit that ambition?
Maybe I can take just a brief go and then Chris can jump in. So, we don't, at Worley, we haven't had an acquisition strategy, but it is something that we will always look to, where we would see that it aligns strongly with our strategy, where we believe that we're able to implement and where we see value. The double-digit EBITDA CAGR that we've outlined over the medium term as an FY30 ambition is not underpinned necessarily by M&A. It is underpinned by the things that we've talked about today and the organic investment program that we believe is there.
I think that's it. I mean, I'm glad you said it. We're often asked about our M&A strategy, and we've always said that we don't have one. We never have. We have a growth strategy where if an acquisition or a target opportunity or a partnership helps us drive that growth strategy, then we'll consider it.
Good morning, John Patel from Macquarie. Thanks for the presentation. Just a couple of questions. Again, just on those medium-term targets there for the double-digit EBITDA. Just to be crystal clear, that's a target between fiscal 26 and fiscal 30.
That's correct. So what we see is we have set out the strategy that we've got today. Some in the room will recall we had an ambition 1.0, and that really was taking us through to FY26. This, as we think about the new strategy for Worley and what we've outlined today, is really from an FY26 to an FY30. That's the medium-term time frame under which we've looked to underpin that ambition.
Thank you. And just the second one, you've obviously referenced the alliance with Baker Hughes and further LNG opportunities. How do you balance that with the need to deliver on what are existing very large projects, CP2, further opportunity with Glenfarne, obviously? So in essence, the question is, how many of these larger projects can you do at once?
Mark Truman?
Yeah, good question, John. If you remember, I think it's 3 years ago I missed Investor Day. Because I was doing the final negotiations with Venture Global on the contract. So we're 3 years in. We've had a bit of delay in terms of the site phase, but it's 3 years to get to the full volume. And, that's something that we need to be aware of as we move further into the major project space. So Alaska LNG, we've just started that journey. We expect that will move forward in a not dissimilar time frame, but perhaps a bit more aggressive without assuming we don't have any delays. And then with Baker Hughes, it's partnering into the supply chain and the project pipeline as it goes forward. And really important relationship. It's good for us. It's good for Baker Hughes, and it's good for our customers. So it's all just positioning us for further growth in the LNG supply chain, LNG project pipeline.
Good morning, it's Roman Lazar from Jefferies. Just a couple from me. On the FY30 ambition, double-digit EBITDA growth, but no margin quantified. I guess just how does the margin curve look in a world where you are taking on more of the EPC kind of work?
I'm going to let this is a question we often get asked. It was a Macquarie conference last week, and we had 22 investor meetings, and I think I asked most of those who had joined the 22 meetings, what was important, the growth. If we're managing cash, if we're looking at things through a working capital lens, if we're growing the absolute EBITDA number, to share their views on the importance of margin. And Justine, why don't you share the answers from the majority of the people who attended those meetings?
I think in the conversations we've had, what is important is the earnings growth that we're able to deliver. And we've talked a little bit today around how we would intend to do that in terms of scaling on full project delivery, but also ensuring we've got margin durability. So we're doing a number of things to actually look at the resilience of our margin. Is around the utilisation of our global integrated delivery offices. It is about the cost management program that we're doing, and is also about the AI work that we've got that will drive that increased efficiency and consistency. So we haven't set out a margin-specific ambition on this. What we've set out is a growth ambition.
Let me, Mark, do you want to talk about what you're seeing as you're pursuing these large projects in terms of margin, because the margin's good.
Yeah, look, it's particularly as we're building a reputation, the conversations I have with our customers where they see our systems and they see our people, we're not having conversations about cost. We're having conversations about surety of delivery, predictability of delivery, and EPC is not E plus P plus C, it's an EPC integrated offering.
And that's exactly why you saw in our AI strategy that we're looking across that full project delivery life cycle, including on-site solutions and procurement solutions, because as we look across the full cycle, it gives us more and more opportunities to differentiate what we're able to offer to our customers.
Okay, and then just the second one, just on the revenue model, if you can just talk through how the traditional sort of billable hour model is evolving in the face of AI, and how do you sort of ensure that AI doesn't result in revenue slippage for your business?
Andy, do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, I mentioned it in the presentation. There are really three different types of models that we're continuing with. Some of it is around by the hour, but increasingly what we're seeing is a shift towards output and outcome. So output is really we're monetizing the productivity of what we do through things like lump sum engineering. But I think the shift that we're seeing more significantly is to outcome. So whereby we will set targets with a customer that might be on schedule, that might be on cost, and then we share in the gain when we deliver ahead of those targets. So what I really like about that model is it's a win-win for us and for the customer. So the customer creating value for the customer through bringing on that asset earlier, reducing the amount of capital outlay, allowing them to generate a return on that asset, which then opens a space for us to have a completely different conversation around the model.
And I might just add, I think every one of our major projects that we've negotiated, we have a substantial component that is, to reinforce what Andy said, outcome-based, cost, schedule, performance.
Yeah, and there was an article in the AFR a couple of weeks ago, and it was a short article, but it was really good at talking about AI. And if you think about what we've done traditionally and what we're doing now, there's a transfer of value between ourselves and our customer. And the measure of that value transfer was by the work hour. Well, we're still transferring value. The value we've got in our 50 years of experience, in our data, in our people, that value transfer is still occurring. And that value needs to be compensated for appropriately. Now, the model to transfer that value will be different, but we're still transferring value. That value that we're transferring still needs to be rewarded, and we need to get a return for it.
Thanks very much, Cameron Needham from Bank of America. Firstly, just on the buyback, what is it that gives you the confidence that now is the optimal time to announce a new buyback program? Thanks.
No, we've just completed the $500 million buyback, which, as I mentioned, was the first buyback that Worley had done in its history. We believe that it is an important tool, essentially in our capital management toolbox of ways in which to distribute value to shareholders. And so it sits together with how we think about dividends. But we also think that there is an opportunity within Worley where we see value, we have confidence in the growth of the business, and the buyback is a good tool to actually be able to enable that. But it is just one of the tools in the toolbox, is the way that I would describe it. We're conscious that we've talked about organic investment. We've announced the buyback of up to $300 million, and we'll execute that buyback in a disciplined way as we look at the market, and we execute that over a period of time.
Great, thanks, Justine. And a quick second one, if I may. Could you just flesh out the backlog a little bit more for us, please? Obviously, you had full notice to proceed on phase 2 CP2. Congratulations on that. But just of the 16.9 bill as at March, how much of that is CP2, please?
At various points in time, we've looked and provided input into what's moved from pipeline into backlog. And you would have seen, as Chris said, we moved CP2 phase 2 from our pipeline into our backlog. And we'll see other projects that also came in. We don't usually specifically describe what is the component breakdown of that, but it certainly has the phase 1 work that we're doing and executing on now, and it has the phase 2 of CP2 as well within that backlog.
Great, thanks very much.
Hey, Megan Kirby-Lewis from Barrenjoey. My first question is for Justine, and just in terms of your current thinking about the repayment of the sustainability bonds, which I think are due next month.
Yes, so we're working through that. We're well positioned. I mentioned very briefly that we've got a number of facilities in place, liquidity facilities, that mean we're well positioned in terms of the maturity of that note. We're continuing to work through that. I won't announce it now in the market, but we'll have an update on that as we go into the full year as part of that result. But certainly in discussions currently, with a number of our banks.
Okay. Would you announce it before the result if something new was locked in, or should we be assuming it rolls onto the existing USD debt?
It may not necessarily. So if it's something material, we will announce it. Yeah.
Then just maybe for Mark Truman, just on the topic of risk, and completely appreciate that you don't do the competitively lump sum bid work. But I guess just keen to understand how risks within sort of full project delivery and these major projects does compare to the types of risks on consulting work. And I think there was mention of some increased governance, so just keen to, I guess, understand what that actually means in practice.
Yeah, I mean, certainly between consulting and a mega project, it's chalk and cheese. Even with the smaller projects, we've learned over time that once you get over a certain scale, the projects, you can't deliver them with the heroics of individuals. You actually need to codify and systemize what you're doing, whether that's the data flows or whether it's actually just the supervision and the quality assurance and quality control on the project. So we have we have project risk groups, we have commercial risk groups, and it's how we pursue the projects, how we negotiate the projects, how we actually set them up in terms of systems, and I'd encourage you to go and look at some of the systems afterwards, and then how we govern them on a monthly basis in terms of reviewing the performance of the projects and making sure we're having the difficult conversations when we need to have them, because projects never go 100% according to plan. It's how you react, which is the difference between success and not. And then dealing with the firefighting. So we just bring a whole, we spend money with our customers in ensuring a greater level of governance over those projects. I mean, I could talk for days. It's a whole world of project risk that we look at.
Perfect. Thank you.
Nathan Riley, UBS. It's good to hear about the ECR tailwinds. I guess my question is just a little bit more geographic. Mark T, can we get a bit of an update just in terms of, I guess, there is a significant level of construction planned in the US. I'd be keen to get an understanding of how you're thinking about labour availability as you move into that sort of more construction-focused and delivery-focused strategy. And also just in the context of a higher level of focus around energy security globally at the moment, just what your customers in Western Europe are now saying about the outlook for activity in that market.
So I'm happy to answer the first one, and Ross might want to jump in, and I'll let Andy or Mark answer about Western Europe. But we watch the labour markets very tightly in the US, both white collar and blue collar. At the moment, it's fine, and certainly in Louisiana with the LNG build out, that's something we're watching really closely because we also have significant needs for direct hire construction, but where we have access to all the labour that we want. We were looking at a data and power centre overlay over the next 10 years in the US, and we think needs about another 500,000 labourers or what in Australia we call labourers, blue collar workers in the US, and it's something that we need to watch really carefully. But then it becomes really important. People have a choice, and they'll go to the projects that are the ones where they know they're going to be safe, that they get their per diems, that they get paid properly, and that they can do good quality work. And our good customers, and I like to think that they're the ones that we work with, it's really important to them that they set their projects up as the projects of choice. So at the moment, the US is okay, very large, got big labour pools. From the Worley point of view, we'll do direct hire construction sort of from Virginia around to Arizona, and there are big chunks of the US market where we would absolutely not do direct hire construction. I don't know, Mark or Ross.
I'll talk about Europe.
Can you just repeat the second part of the question for me? Yeah, it was in the context of, I guess, an increased focus on energy security and food security. I think was something was also touched on earlier in the context of post-Middle East implications. So just in the context of how customers in Western Europe are communicating to you on their needs in this environment.
Yeah, I can jump in. Right after the pandemic, we really spent a lot of time on studies with our customers in Europe, UK, in the sustainable, fuels, and a lot of those projects got all the way to FID and never got funded. And so those projects are still there. We're waiting, to see if the customers working with the governments getting subsidies, if they'll move forward. Some of the major projects, Jim's working those. We're seeing those come online. We're opening the funnel into the critical infrastructure where we were not as focused before. So we're having to reposition a little bit in the Europe market to see where the capital's flowing and go after that market. But it's when the sustainable projects didn't go forward, and there's a lot of them moving, that set us back a little bit. So we're pivoting and some great opportunities in the funnel. Jim, you want to add anything? You're based in London, right in the middle of it.
Yeah, I think, Mark, you've summarised it well. We're seeing a number of large projects in the sustainable fuels moving forward now. There's a lot of discussions going on in UK, for example, with government in terms of moving those forward. We were successful on Heidelberg, and that positions us very well as a proof point for us into that market. So I think we've strengthened our position, and certainly we can see a larger portfolio in front of us.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add as well. I mean, I think Europe has to do something different.
Yeah.
You saw with the dependence on Russian gas and the impact there, and then again now the dependence on the Middle East and the kerosene has been imported at the moment from the US. A lot of European refiners have been shut in and converted to terminals. Will you start to see a reversal of that? Possibly. I think then also gas from other suppliers, and particularly LNG import, regasification infrastructure you'll see as well. So to me, Europe has to do something in order to not be beholden to a single point of failure.
I'll go again if that's all right. On LNG and integrated gas on the slide, you sort of quoted a 2 to 3% market CAGR. I'm just curious to the extent, do you think that captures the rebuild and reconfiguration opportunity that's out there as a result of the conflict? And, just trying to understand how material that might be on a kind of 1 to 2 year view.
Maybe I'll open up and let Andy jump in. No, I don't. No, I mean, the 2 or 3% is, pre-Iran conflict. You've lost a significant amount of capacity out of Qatar. Yeah. They're projecting 3-4 years for rebuild to bring that back onto market. So, there's that rebuild investment as well as the sort of increased capacity that has been looked at. So the 2 or 3% is outside of the restoration, and it excludes the third bullet point, which was resilience of nation states globally, to really focus on energy security and affordability. So my view is, and Andy jump in here, and it's still early. It's hard to put data around it, but conceptually the trajectory would, my view, would put investment up and above that which was projected pre-Iran. Andy?
Yeah, I think that's right. It does, as Chris said, it doesn't include the rebuild of Qatar LNG, of whatever that might look like. I think the energy security is going to drive investment, particularly in smaller fields that were perhaps more stranded. So in the 1 to 5 TCF range, our expectation is we'll start to see FLNG come back more strongly, and that's a key facet and component of our relationship with Baker Hughes as well. So, upside beyond that, hard to quantify.
Just one more from me as well. Just on the CCI revenue mix contribution at the moment, can you give us a sense of where that sits? And then I guess just on the deep data center side, 8 new customers, who are you winning that work against?
Maybe Andy on the first one was around the CCI and how we see that as the proportion of revenue today in terms of the work that we're doing. And then what we might do is pass to Rochelle to just talk about the competitive environment from a data center perspective.
Yeah, look, what you're going to see is that's going to take an increasing share of, that's going to be an increasing share of our revenue as we move forward. The sheer amount of capital that's been invested there is significant. I would flag power in North America, the data center build out as well. So I think, we see huge outsized potential in that market. And I think what's really interesting for us is, it really speaks to our fungible skills. This is not, a market that we're having to create new capabilities to enter. We can step straight into it with the capabilities we've got.
Yeah, let me just build on that before, Rochelle. So typically, you would look at, can you take existing capabilities into adjacent markets, or do you develop new capability in existing markets? And what we're doing in this build-out with the critical complex infrastructure is taking existing capabilities and moving into an adjacent market. So it's not a stretch. It's a natural. You wouldn't typically want to take a new capability into a new market. That's a two-dimensional move. You would typically do one or the other. Only occasionally both. But Rochelle, do you want to talk about competitive intensity of the data side?
Yeah, the data center landscape is really interesting. It's not our traditional project approach that we have within Worley. So you have customers that really we've worked with early on from a consulting perspective, and they see us as a trusted partner, and so they're just taking us through to the next stages. So we have customers that way. The other ones that we're really kind of starting to see are competitors that are not our typical competitors. So in other words, as these projects become more complex and they need on-site generation, they're scaling to a point where their traditional supply chain to support substations and whatever battery storage that they were putting on before, they can't meet the scale of what the customers need today. So that means that they're looking to us to really help support them and such. So a lot of these conversations are us kind of coming into it from a consulting stage, identifying a challenge and a need that they have, and just being there to help them support and scale from there.
And what's the typical scope? Is it feed or is it full hyperscaler EPCM when it comes to data centers?
So we're doing from, as I said, early stage consulting to design, and they don't typically go through a feed. They're moving faster. And so our work and what we've done with Venture Global and the fact of being able to accelerate is that skill set we're able to take over to the data center space. And so it's thinking about, for them, they're looking at saying, I need this built, I want it built in 18 months. How do I do it? I want to hire one person that's going to make that happen. How do I get it done? And so that's where we have to step up and answer that question.
But in terms of competitive intensity, look, we see Fluor, we see Fluor in the space, and we see a Kiewit in the space. But what's happening is that data centers are really data factories, and the complexity of the infrastructure required, it lends more to our capability than it would necessarily to the traditional data center competition. So, data centers against the hyperscaler gigafactories, the complexity actually opens up the opportunity for us to play in that. Where before data centers, as opposed to the hyperscaler gigafactories, they were a different set of players. But as we move into the hyperscale gigafactories, that's our space. But it'll be Fluor, it will be Kiewit, and I'm speaking about in the US, and there'll be different players in Europe. But it's the complexity that makes it difficult for some of the traditional data center players to operate in, for the reasons Rochelle shared.
It might be worth just adding as well, it's not just the box of the data center. So
that's exactly right.
Because of the scale and the power demands, almost all of them now, certainly in the US, you've got to have a power station attached to it. Significant needs for water. We're also seeing significant needs for dealing with carbon emissions as well. And if you've got the ability to do power, water, you've got a permitted site, you can deal with the carbon. That's absolutely all in Worley's wheelhouse. You bring it all together. So
it's that space outside of the box, really. That's where the complexity exists. The power, the water, the cooling. Communities will get kind of used to maybe they can accept maybe a power station being on the horizon. What they won't accept is water being sucked out of the aquifer. So water management and how you're going to source, treat, recycle becomes increasingly important, and that's really complex.
We're at time. Thank you. Chris, you might want to say some closing words, but thank you. We'll have an opportunity after now if people have questions that we want to take in the foyer.
I think it's all said. Look, we appreciate you coming today. Many of you are on the register. Many of you we hope to get on the register. But certainly, look, we've got lunch. Come and chat to us. Happy to answer any questions that haven't been answered so far. But really appreciate everybody joining in the room. And for those online, again, thanks for joining us.